Hello, welcome to Algorithms. My name is Saurabh. Today we are going to discuss about zero trust maturity model. As you know that zero trust teaches us to never trust and always verify. So before we get into the presentation, I would like to discuss about couple of things. Number one, we know that employees are bringing their own devices and working remotely. Data is being accessed outside the corporate network and shared with external collaborators such as partners and vendors. Your corporate applications and data are moving from on premises to hybrid and cloud environments. Now, the new perimeter is not defined by physical locations of your firm. It now extends to every access point that hosts, stores, or accesses corporate resources and services. Now, when the interaction happens with these corporate resources and services, often they bypass on premises perimeter based security models that rely on network firewalls and VPNs. And most of the firm, or I would say almost all the firm which rely solely on premises firewalls and VPNs, lack the visibility, solution integration, and agility to deliver timely and end-to-end security coverage. Now, that being said, let's move to zero trust security framework. And first slide is to give you an idea about zero trust maturity curve or a maturity model. So now this, if you look at AWS maturity model, it's different. If you look at Microsoft maturity model, it's different. If you look at Okta, so this I have taken from Okta website. Now you see, but some of the basic fundamentals remain same. You might see a different way of representing this maturity models, but the basic fundamentals remain same irrespective of which zero trust security model you are using or your organization is following. Now, at the same time, you can bring companies like Algorithmz to create your own maturity model. Means it is not borrowed from any organization, but to create right from the scratch of one which defines your organization. Now, in this one, as we are talking about, it talks about fragmented identity, unified IAM, contextual access, adaptive workforce. Now, let me give you some basic idea. What does it mean when we say stage 0 or stage 1? It does not mean that you don't have single sign-on. So this is where most organizations generally sit today. If they don't have zero trust strategic framework in place, or they have not started the zero trust journey, most of them are sitting at stage 0 or partial stage 1, I would say. So they have on premises identity with static rules and some single sign on, limited visibility is available into device compliance, cloud environments, and logins. And I would say the flat network infrastructure results in broad risk exposure. Means the network infrastructure is not segmented. Now, level 2 is more of hybrid identity. Your devices are registered and compliant to IT security policies. Networks are being segmented, as I said just now. In level 1 or stage 0 or partial stage 1, your networks are not segmented, but when you move to the next stage, it is segmented. And the other important point is analytics. So now if you look at the existing landscape, most of the threat management or security softwares, means advanced security software, the underlying infrastructure is big data and machine learning. So they collect logs from different locations, different machines, they process it, and they process user behavior, and they like and there is a prediction enabled, or there is a predictive analytics feature enabled as well, so that it is not just reactive but predictive in nature. So analytics is also one of the important aspect to proactively identify user threats. Now when we say that you have reached the top level sorry, or the you are at the end of the maturity curve, which never happens, but based upon the existing frameworks, is that cloud identity with the real-time analytics dynamically get access to applications, workloads, networks, and data. Trust has been removed from the network entirely. Micro cloud parameters, micro segmentation, and encryption are in place. And then automatic threat detection and response is implemented. You get to see some of these in parts at different locations or different organizations, but you don't get to see that everything which is at the optimal stage is implemented everywhere. Means every organization is on the journey of zero trust, and they are trying to implement. Some of them are at the beginning stage, some of them are at stage 1 or stage 2, some of them are also at stage 3 as well, but it is more of a beginner stage. Even organizations like Microsoft, they have just started their journey and they are implementing zero trust architecture. So what are the guiding principles? As I said, means zero trust is all about never trust, always verify. So so the guiding principles are very clear. You have to verify explicitly, use least privileged access, and assume breach. What does it mean? So verify explicitly means irrespective of the request, you have to authenticate and authorized based on all available data points, whether it is identity, location, service or workload, data classification, etc., etc. Now when we talk about use least privileged access, there are two keywords in that. One is just in time and the second one is just enough. So I hope those who are dealing with the security architecture or implementing security, or those who are deciding the security strategy for the organization, like CISO profiles, they understand this terminology. Limit user access with the just in time and just enough uh, data protection to protect both data and productivity. Now the third one is assume breach. So now what is happening, uh, that your networks are not segmented, right? Same goes with the users, devices, and application awareness. It's not there. uh, so your sessions are not encrypted as well. What assume breach means is minimize blast radius for breaches and prevent lateral movement by segmenting network, uh, users, applications, and you bring more awareness into these components or areas, and verify all sessions are encrypted end to end. And in the end, as I said in the first slide about the analytics to understand threats and drive threat detection, and how do you improve your defenses. Now, zero trust, when it comes to building zero trust, there are six foundational elements. When we talk about zero trust, most of the places, the heart is identity, and then they start and expand towards other components. But what I personally feel is, and based upon my experience and my conversation with different customers, that all these six areas, whether it's identities, device, applications, data, infrastructure, and network, all this has to be the heart. Means these are all different components of security heart, I would say, that defines different dimensions, but you cannot consider one at the center point and then expand and then cover other areas. So that's the reason I say this is all six of them are foundational elements. One is not above other, All of them has to be considered as well. So let's talk about two or three foundational elements like applications. So applications and APIs provide the interface by which data is consumed. They may be legacy on-premises, lift and shifted to cloud workloads, or modern SaaS applications. Controls and technologies should be applied to discover shadow IT, ensure appropriate in-app permissions, gate access based on real-time analytics, monitor for abnormal behavior, control of user access, and validate secure configuration options. Now, the moment you start to get deep dive into these foundational elements, most of the people are you know what we are talking about, like data. For instance, you have a data lake, and so you have to make sure that your data is classified, labeled, encrypted, especially if it is PII data, and access restricted based upon those attributes, that who can access that data and who cannot access that data. Those are the simple elements. Means if you talk to people who are the owners of data and the security team, they know. But the overall strategy, the overall maturity framework is not implemented, but they are taking care of these components in itself, but in a silo manner, not in an integrated approach. And what we are talking here about is a complete integrated approach where we are keeping all six foundational element at the center. So when we talk about zero trust across the digital estate, what does it mean to your organization, how it looks like? So as you see that identities, that identity provider, multi-factor authentication, user session risk. Similarly, when we are talking about device inventory, device identities, device risk and compliance state. Similarly, for network infrastructure, apps, and data, I guess this requires a separate discussion. This specific slide requires one more presentation that talks specifically about different components. When we say about classify, label, and encrypt data, what does it mean? So I'm going to create one more presentation that is going to explain all the different components that we are talking about here in the zero trust across digital estates. So what are the tools for zero trust implementation? As I said, means we have six different foundational elements. Now when I say tool, I don't mean any vendor specific tool. What I want to bring into focus is a specific concept. So when we say identities, when we say devices, applications, data, and so on and so forth, so strong authentication, policy based adaptive access, micro segmentation. So for instance, when we move beyond simple centralized network based perimeter to comprehensive and distributed segmentation using software defined micro perimeters, so this is in specific to networks. Similarly, when we are talking about automation or intelligence and machine learning or artificial intelligence, that what type of tools you are using, whether those tools are distributed, agent based, or agentless tool, how they collect data, how they process data, and how they detect anomalies within your system, or their predictive analytics capability, how accurate is that. So now this is just these are the key drivers before for the zero trust implementation. So now, like data classification and protection, so you need to discover, you need to classify, you need to protect and monitor sensitive data to minimize exposure from malicious or accidental exfiltration. So what we are explaining here is, rather than saying use A or B or C tool, go with these concepts and then map it with the tool, so it makes it easier. So even the concept in itself is a tool. Okay. uh, Zero trust scenarios I guess we spoke about fundamentals, we spoke about maturity stages, we spoke about how digital estate, how zero trust digital estate looks like, or you can just imagine your organization and how these different components fit together. Now, what are the different scenarios? Means these scenarios are not means you might have different use cases or different scenarios. I picked some of them from Microsoft website. So some of the scenarios that we are talking about here is scenario number two, that security organizations can enforce device health checks per application or service. Scenario 4, employees have user interface options that provide the ability to discover and launch the application and resources they need. So now I hope you get the essence of it, that means we all know that we need different use cases, but this helps us, rather than going blindly and doing different things, that we put together different scenarios, that what scenarios we are trying to cover, and then prioritize and rank each scenario, so that our implementation plan, our roadmap and implementation plan is rock solid, it's robust. So you have the outcomes which are very much mapped to your business objectives, and that helps you secure your infrastructure and the different components that we discussed about, and you serve your customer with peace. So I guess this is it from my perspective. In case you have any specific questions, or if you want to know more, you can write to us on the given email IDs or call us, and we will help you with your initiative. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye bye.